I'm Thomas, and you're listening to the Gracing podcast. The European gravel racing season has finally and properly kicked off this weekend. We, of course, had the Gravel Earth Series race called Santa Vall, where my guest today, Paul Voss, was racing himself. And we will get to this in a minute. And also the UCI racing also kicked off with the Castellon Gravel Race. We will touch upon this as well in the very end. Paul, great to have you here. And
hello.
I'm super stoked to talk about this race weekend. And I know everybody is waiting to hear about your race and how the men's race went from the inside perspective. But let's start with the women's race. And I have properly an overreaction, but I definitely need to hear your take, because my question is Annika Langvad going to dominate the European gravel circuit this season? So for the listeners who didn't follow Santa Vall super closely, she won the first stage, the second stage. Santa Vall, of course, was a 2-stage race, and she won GC by over 12 minutes, and she didn't win it with this margin about a bunch of amateurs, but she was ahead of Gerike Schreurs and Rosa Klöser, another 2.5 minutes ahead on the podium. Other notable names in the women's race: Morgan Aguirre, Carolina Migon, Emily Newsom, Clara Sophie Skofgard, Dennis Rosbury, many others as well. And that margin is quite a margin. What's your take, Paul?
Yeah, I don't know if she will dominate it, but she will most certainly be one of the riders of the year. I just had dinner with Carolin Schiff, who recently, or yesterday actually, so on Saturday, won the UCI race in southern Spain, and I already told her that there's a new woman in town who makes her life most likely very, very hard and will raise the level even more. But yeah, I was having a little chat after the race with Annika, and yeah, I'm really impressed by her comeback. I don't know how many years she has been out of this professional sport, because she just became a mother a few months ago. But yeah, her comeback into professional cycling is quite impressive, I have to say.
Indeed it is. So I can answer your question, actually. She retired in 2020. So yeah, 4.5 years ago by now. And so here's my little story. I'm not a huge mountain bike guy, and I had heard the name before. And actually, when I did the preview of the Gravel Earth series here with Maya, she told me that Annika Langvad is planning to do some of the gravel races. And I thought, oh, interesting. And then I checked again, because I didn't have like all her palmarès in my mind, and probably our listeners don't do either. So to give anybody who probably doesn't know Annika Langvad or doesn't know her in detail, she is like a former cross-country and cross-country marathon pro. She's from Denmark. She won the 2016 cross-country world championship. She's a 5-time world marathon champion, 5-time Cape Epic winner. She was even super strong on the road. I don't know if you knew that she was Danish road national champ once and 3 times time trial champion. But as you alluded to, she retired 2020. She is 40 years old, and goddamn is she fast.
Yeah, and I want to add that she had just one full road season with Ball's Dolmans cycling team, which is now SD Works. And in that year, she got second at Strade Bianche, fourth at Amsterdam Gold Race, and third at Flèche Wallonne. So therefore, for her, just one season on the road, she had a quite decent year. And after that, she retired. So it's crazy to see her back. But then also, I mean, I'm turning 39 end of March. So I kind of know how it feels to be that old in professional cycling. And I think
you're giving me
it's
hope.
Good to see.
I mean, I'm 39 now, and if people say 40 is the new 30, I'm so happy.
Yeah, at least in gravel, it seems to be like that because, as I just mentioned, I'm gonna be soon 39, and she is 40, and she's smashing it, and it's good to see. Yeah.
I mean, the one thing that I thought, so Santa Vall, the 2 stages, to give people a bit of a better idea. Day 1 was a 80-kilometer stage with, I believe, just under 1,000 meters of elevation. And the second day, the harder day, was like 112 kilometers with 1,600 meters of elevation. So these were rather short, at least by gravel standards, rather short stages. So probably more in tune what a mountain bike pro is used to in terms of race distance. But then who knows what she did in the last 4 years, where she trained. Maybe she did like all these endless base rides, and now she has just a gravel engine. We shall find out.
Yep. There I can recommend the Besenwagen podcast, where we had her as a guest a few years ago during her retirement. And there we spoke also about that. And yeah, she always stayed fit. But it's crazy how she just came back. And, you can't forget that all the women we saw there now here, except maybe of Carolin, are the same ones who are fighting for the win at Unbound, And then Annika comes in and, just chopping them by quite a margin.
Yeah. That margin. I mean, it's a bit like the type of margins that Carolin Schiff, when she started racing gravel, 2-3 years ago now, that I remember had quite a lot of those margins. But now it's 2025, and everybody is so much better, so much, so much more full gas all the time in these races, and that is insane. But yeah, do you have any other insights from the women's race? I wonder, because I can tell you how I spent this weekend. I spent it mostly juggling between Instagram to see what was going on the one hand side. Then they have this timekeeping app for the class mark races, Last Timing, and it's really not a great app, but it gets the job done. So I was switching between this, and then I documented everything in my Instagram stories. But yeah, essentially what I saw were time gaps at checkpoints in an app. Obviously, you couldn't see the women's race live, but you talked to people, you heard some whispers, anything noteworthy from on location?
Unfortunately, not many insights. The only thing I heard is just that it was like the men's race, full gas from the beginning, and that the level raced again. So unfortunately, I can't tell you more, but I can also say that the course for like being in February was also quite demanding. It looked actually easier on the profile than it was in reality, and it made for like a really, really hard race. And I think in the women's race was the same as in the men's race. That many were maybe surprised how high the level already is for being February. So, yeah.
You think everybody will be overtrained when the season properly kicks off?
No, I don't think so. But I do think that some people are maybe closer now to their top level than others. And I think the gaps we have seen now and the riders we have seen now in front, there's a high possibility that maybe change a bit towards like Trucker and Unbound, which also are longer races. I mean, 80Ks are a bit more than 2 hours. Then the second stage of 114Ks is a bit more than 3 hours for the man. I don't know exactly how long the women's race was. So therefore, that's different to doing 6 to 7 hours at Trucker 200 or 10 to 11 hours at Unbound.
I guess that's what everybody's hoping for now, right? That Annika, she's just peaking early.
And I don't think so. I will say that is not counting for her. I think she will be fine with racing for 11 hours, to be honest. But also the men's race we're coming later to, there will definitely be some changes.
Yeah, I mean, we already talked then otherwise about the standings. G in second place, who finished third on the first stage where there was like this breakaway with obviously Annika, her, and Rosa. Sadly, I didn't get to see any of the sprint pictures because I was wondering that whether they are racing together, G and Annika Langvad, because they are both on the specialized team. But then I heard a story by G that she had only one pedal working. She couldn't click in the pedal for the last few Ks. So then probably she was not giving a proper lead out to Langvad. But there were no pictures.
There was a nasty little bit of running, which came also surprisingly for me, which also almost ruined my race on the first day, where we had to climb up towards like a bridge. And I don't know if she was on road pedals. Actually, I have to double check that. But if she was on road pedals, there's a high possibility that she just still had dirt in her cleats and couldn't click in properly, which happened to also a lot of men.
And aren't like most road cleats anyways made of plastic, and they break much easier than like sturdy SPD type of cleats?
No, they're not breaking. They're just the dirt just sticks in them, and it's just not that pleasant. So maybe that happened to her. Yeah. But also the finishing straight, I have to say, there was like the gravel path with like some bigger rocks towards the last K, and then you had like a small jump onto the pavement again for like 200 meters before you had to turn left into like the finishing straight. So it was not a real technical sprint, but it was a sprint where which you had to time quite well. Yeah.
So if you would take all of us not racing in Santa Vall people and listeners into the race and the stages, what were like the characteristics and the highlights or lowlights of these stages?
So the first stage we had from the gun a 2.5K climb or 2K climb, which was like in steps, but therefore also quite steep in bits. And then a pretty technical descent. And then, we went a bit flat next to like a river before we hit some like some minor inclines. But actually most of the day was on dirt. I would say that the profile for like the first stage was until around, I think, 20 Ks to go or so was demanding, but was doable. But then 20 Ks to go or 30 Ks to go, I can't remember exactly. There was like this really nasty climb, which was like in total more than 4 Ks, but also going up again in steps. And there was like one bit which was really, really steep. And in my case, I tried new gearings. So I went with like a 50 in the front, mono, and in the back 10 to 46. I can't recommend that. That was definitely...
You're not using the classified system, right?
No. So I did proper power training up those climbs. So I think that was, at least in the men's race, a really decisive moment where everything broke apart. I guess in the women's race it was the same. Then after those climbs you had like forts, flats and so on, and you went kind of the same way back towards the finish as you started. And there was like a small steep climb, which we also always do in Trucker, around 5 Ks to go. And in pictures I saw, I think that Rosa tried to attack there, but I'm not 100% sure. And then from there on, all the way to the finish was on gravel until the last K where I mentioned, where you had like bigger stones and a bit technical part towards the finish line.
That actually
was quite demanding.
That actually surprised me a bit because she said in an interview I saw somewhere on Instagram, Rosa, that she tried to attack multiple times. And I was wondering why. I mean, in Unbound, we saw she has a sprint, and then if you attack multiple times, okay, maybe you are afraid of like the team dynamics and the two playing you out. But I was wondering if it wouldn't be worthwhile to trust in your sprint.
Yeah, but also it's going for GC, huh? And you have just 2 days, and getting a few seconds can make a difference for the next day. and putting you in a better position.
You would think.
And so I think that might have been the reason, or she just felt really strong and wanted to make the difference and not wanting to wait for a sprint. So yeah. But yeah, and then the second stage was actually, maybe it was also just that everyone had tired legs from the days before. Even though, the first day was just 80 Ks, but I guess the moment the race was the same. It was just full gas all day. And so early in the year, and then it was also really cold, like today in the morning. It was like 1 degree when we started, and the woman had to start an hour before us. So it must have been around minus or around 0 degrees. Yeah. And it was just like small kickers for like the first 20 Ks, just all the time small kickers. And it was like really annoying, actually. It was mostly on tarmac. And then we had like a longer flat part, which it was also similar to the trucker. I guess a lot of people who are listening here have also done already trucker or have been in Girona, so they probably know that bit. And then we went towards like a really long climb towards Els Angles, the house climb of Girona. And the first bit of this climb was like a mountain bike track. It was like really narrow and quite technical in parts, and also a bit slippery. And then we went into then we had like a little descent. Then we went to like the long climb, which was around, I think, 15 minutes long for us, around 13 to 15 minutes. And after that, we were on like a plateau for a bit before we had like a longer descent into like the rest of the race, which was mainly like rolling hills and flat. Mm-hmm. But the race broke apart, at least for us, on this long climb. And I think in the women's race, Annika went really, really early. I think,
super early.
After how many Ks?
So I have actually, because I'm looking in my Instagram story here where I took like all these screenshots. So she had at the 46 kilometer mark, I think that was the first checkpoint, she already had almost 4 minutes. And then at the second checkpoint, which I think was after the big climb, so at the 84 kilometer mark, that must have been like, I don't know where it was. Was it at the top of the climb?
No. The top of the climb must have been around the 40 Ks or something, 45, and 84 Ks was the feed zone.
Okay, and because there she already had like 10 minutes. Annika did.
Yeah. What I heard, that's just what I heard. She broke away like after like a few Ks or something. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I can see that because, as I said, the beginning was quite tough. And if you had good legs, you could make there really early on a big difference. And she's also technical, really, really good because of her background. Yeah. And there were some corners where when you're good in descending, you can make big gaps.
So let's jump into the men's race, shall we? Paul, congratulations on your first podium of the season.
Thank you.
GC podium and stage podium today in third place. And let's probably talk about the days that you had before we jump into what other riders did.
So the last, it's actually a couple of weeks. The last 2 weeks were quite rough with like being always this difference between being sick and ill and cold. I know there's all these different words in English, but I guess I had a cold. But yeah, I was for like 1 week, not every day off the bike, but I was just feeling like crap, and I actually had to delay my travel to Girona. I was planning to come here earlier to do some recon also for Tracker already. But I had to rebook everything and came here on Wednesday before the race and still felt really, really bad. And
I mean, we talked on Thursday, and what you told me, I don't know if I'm supposed to tell it, but I will tell it. You told me, I guess I'm leaning not starting. So that was Thursday, 2 days before the race. And then you end up racing and doing pretty well. So I guess...
I guess I have done my homework in the winter, but no, I'm I was really like, I had on Friday photo shooting with a sponsor, and there I said as well, I probably just like wake up in the morning at Saturday and then decide if I start, because I didn't want to risk anything. I have some experience from last year where I couldn't do Santa Vall and then also Tracker, and I was traveling. I was still traveling, and that even threw me back further. So this year I thought like I don't want to risk anything as we are so early in the season, and if I'm good at Santa Vall or not, it doesn't really matter for the rest of the season, because you have to see the bigger picture. But then I was feeling like, okay, I give it a try. But I mean, even now, I really don't feel healthy. I don't feel like, yeah, let's race. But as I mentioned, I think I've done my homework. But man, I mean, I was really suffering in this race, especially the first day. I was actually feeling surprisingly good in the first hour, but I guess it was also, I'm always good in the first hour of the race, kinda. So that was normal, but I was like, yeah, my power was really dropping towards the end, and I was suffering a lot. But
how hard were you going in the first hour? I mean, in all of you with such a short distance, I assume it's like from full gas.
Yeah, there was like, because there was from the start there was a 3-man breakaway, and the thing is, like, which is also actually really annoying. These races are getting more and more professional, or at least the riders getting more and more professional, but you have no information. You have no information with time gaps, who's actually in front. We didn't know that 2 of the strongest guys are in front with Mattia Garuffi and Jason Osborne. So Jason Osborne, 2 times esport world champ, was with Albertson de Koenig last year, and he's like a watt machine.
Yeah.
He's like unbelievably strong. I will come to him later, because I think if he figures out a few things, he can be a surprise for many people this year if he does Unbound. And then also Garuffi, he's, I think, in the final now at the Swift Challenge with Albertson de Koenig, and he's going for multiple KOMs in Italy, like famous KOMs. So he's like also really, really, really good rider. And the other guy was like, I think, a Dutch Conti rider. So also semi-professional rider. And yeah, we found out later that these guys were in front, but I never knew that Jason was in front until I finished. And then afterwards, I was not surprised that we couldn't catch him really, because in the back we have to do 500 watts to close those gaps to them, because for him doing 450 watts is probably just like, just staying on a throttle. Yeah. And yeah, therefore it was quite hard racing from the beginning, trying to catch these guys. And also I was afraid that team tactics play a bigger role, because what I realized before the start, when I saw all the presentations, that there were actually quite a few new teams now. It's going really more towards teams. This SWAT team, they have actually a few guys who come from the World Tour or from like the Pro Conti level or pro team level, and from Conti levels. So there is quite a decent team, and yeah, it's not playing such a big role here in Santa Vall. It didn't play such a big role, but I think if these guys figure out the techniques and all this stuff, it will have a bigger effect into the races. But yeah, the first day was just flat out from the beginning. So as I mentioned, that 3 guys went away from the beginning. I think one of them crashed, the Dutch guy. We catched him. Then in our group was like ongoing jumps, attacks, sometimes working together. So it was like a back and forth all the time. But you could see that what's his name? The Danish rider,
Magnus Bak-Klaris.
Magnus Bak-Klaris. He was the strongest of us in the back. And man, he is small. He's like really small. You can really like make himself even smaller on the bike.
Okay.
Plus, he has a lot of watts.
Yeah, because he looked quite strong to me, like a guy who, I'm surprised you say he's small. He didn't look like a little climber, not like one of these 60 kilo guys. Or 50 kilo.
He doesn't look like a climber, but he's not tall.
Small arrow, but with power.
And he was bloody strong. And so like on this climb I mentioned before, these like 4.5K climb with like the steep bit, there he went away. And yeah, then he rode, I think from there on, a solo and catched a few guys. We catched also Jason Osborne after the bit where we had to run because he had struggled with his pedal, like I did, that he couldn't click in because he had so much dirt in his cleats. And then Jason later on crashed as well. But yeah, that was just flat out. And the Magnus, he just went solo to the finish line and was just like unbelievably strong. And the same we could see then on Sunday as well, where he won again solo. Yeah.
So now that we are with the guy, I was wondering, did you know Magnus before? Know about him?
No. The problem is really that, first of all, so many new people coming in every year. Yeah. And I think this year even more so. And also more guys coming in from road teams, from like continental teams, but not riding for their continental teams, but for, like in this case, the Panama racing team. On the road, he's riding for a Danish continental team. Yeah. And there were also some other guys, then on Saturday I did a bit of research and looked some names up, and yeah, there are some guys, like also in the SWAT team, guys who finished like twice in the top 5 at the Baby Giro in the under 23. So of course they are strong, yeah. And so like the landscape of gravel is changing now really rapidly. So there are more and more riders, not like me being full gravel riders, but more doing like this hybrid model, racing on a road, but also doing gravel 50-50. Yeah. And I feel they have an advantage over me as they have the speed in their legs from the road, yeah, which I'm definitely missing and also feeling in those races. But I'm also with 38 now, too old to, I don't want to be part of a Conti team and ride road races. I want to be a gravel privateer. But I think we will see that becoming more normal in the next years, and that will definitely change the speed of gravel racing again, and also the professionalization.
I mean, that is what is so crazy to me, that we have this guy who is on a Conti team, which essentially is like in football terms, 3rd division, maybe. So he's racing. Yeah, they race like UCI races, probably invited to some of the, I don't know, 2.1 or so races with such a team. But then he comes and he didn't destroy the competition in this sense like Annika did, but he had a very good day. I mean, winning both stages, winning GC, and also some pretty notable gravel names like yourself, Peter Vakoc in there, Nathan Haas, and so on. Many noteworthy names, and this guy just dominates. So he may well be one of the people who are peaking early right now, because it's important and marked as a highlight, a race in their calendar. But that is interesting. And I wonder, how is it, like, you're in these races and the usual suspects from the gravel scene, but then there are all these other faces and they probably make the front split. How important does it become for you to like really watch these guys? How do they move? Does it become like a play almost, watching each other, being suspicious of everybody?
Yeah, definitely. But I'm also good in that. I know that from the road, and because I turned pro, of course, we had Google back then, but we didn't have pro cycling stats, Mm-hmm. So you kind of had to do your research and you had to read the riders. And I'm good in that. And when I'm with guys in a group, you see how they pedal, how they're taking corners, how they're accelerating, and so on. Then you kind of can see what their strengths are and what not, and how they most likely will move in the final. And that was today and yesterday the case, and you knew what the guys will most likely do. I hope he peaked the Magnus, that he's not getting any stronger. But even if he does, I'm not so worried about myself, to be honest, because I'm not at 100% health-wise, and also I know I have a lot of work to do to get up to speed, because I haven't done any high intensity until now. So there's still a lot to gain for me. So therefore, I'm actually really happy with how everything went. But in general, you have to see it like that. I think a few guys were already close to their top level, and the way they're riding and the way they have been riding the last years, you know. So I think I kind of can see that. But it will be interesting. As I spoke here or in other podcasts many times about, it's like you have to make a difference between UCI races, which the distances we did now were more like towards UCI style, and Tracker 200 or 360 and Unbound. It's a totally different race. Unbound is like almost 4 times the length, you know. So therefore, you can't really compare that.
Very different effort.
And therefore, for me, I'm happy that I'm able to compete here. But as I know, someone said, I'm can actually compete everywhere, but I'm not highly competitive in any of it. So I'm good at, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm good in every bit of it, but I'm not a specialist in one of these areas. But I hope I get more specialists this year for Unbound and Tracker 360 and so on.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at some point it's almost required to decide on which end of the gravel one-day race spectrum you want to perform best, no?
Yeah, definitely.
Like if you do like these 3-4 hour races that you know in the UCI world, it's just physiologically different from like 9-10 hours, whatever Unbound and Tracker 360 is.
Yeah, that's true. But the interesting was today that, you know, like yesterday was more similar to like a road race from like the dynamic, you know, in the bunch, and it was like a lot moving around and a lot of like fast bits. And today it was again just pure watts at this long climb. And there, of course, you could really see who has a certain fitness level, you know. And I think these kind of climbs give you a bit of an idea how fit they are really and how they could perform in like other harder races, you know. But these 80K races, Jesus, I mean, I really don't need many of these in a year because it was just like mental.
Yeah. And so you already mentioned Jason Osborne, who I think had quite a good day and really was taken out of the first stage by a mechanical plus accident plus some other troubles. But he was like at the feed station, Vilobi Donya or something like this. Mm-hmm. He had like a solo 1.5 minute gap ahead of the first chase group, and then I think there was another little gap to the second chase group where you, I believe, were in at this point. And then until pretty late in the race, he was away solo until he got caught and had this. So also one of the names, as you said before, definitely a force to be reckoned with if he wants to do more of this. Do you know if he is planning to do more gravel racing this season?
Yeah, he's definitely planning to do more gravel races. I don't know which ones, but I guess maybe also Unbound. But I have to say that we didn't know that he was in front back then. It's like at that point, I was asking around in a bunch, and most guys said, "Now we catched everyone." So we were not like racing full guys. I don't want to take it away from him, but that's also one of the points I said earlier. It's really hard to sometimes know what's actually going on because, you know, people from the side are just throwing in some numbers.
Yeah.
You know, but then you see then they're not looking at their watch. They're just saying 20 seconds, you know what I mean? So it's like it's really tough to know sometimes how the race situation is. And this time we didn't know that he's still in front, and I was surprised because when I passed him, that was when he was lying on the ground. I didn't know. First of all, I didn't know he was in front, and I didn't know there was still somebody in front. And but anyway, it's really strong. And as I said before, I think if he figures out a few things, and then races like Unbound, if he's doing it, he can be a contender because there it's most likely, or most of the time, just straightforward, and you need to ride a bit smart. ideally you have no mechanical, and then he most certainly has the power for it, man. I mean, he's so strong.
Yeah, pure watts. I mean, he's also a former rower, and I think that is something people who are a bit into cycling know, that former rowers always bring crazy power.
That's true. But one last thing I want to say, it was also good to see today that like the OG guys like Peter Vakac and me are still up there, you know.
Yeah.
So we are still competitive, even though all these like new kids coming in and making our life to a living hell. But we're still up there, and I think it's also important for like these privateer riders like us to still be up there.
Any of the other guys and names that you saw from the new kids on the block that impressed you? Because if I look in the top 10, there are certainly some names that I hadn't read before and didn't come across. But of course, I only see times and time gaps. You saw them. Anyone who caught your eye?
Tim Wollenberg.
Mm-hmm.
He was, I mean, I know him from Germany, obviously, because he's German. And
sixth overall.
I know him for quite some years. And he definitely has talent. But in the past, he was, if he's listening, hello. But in the past, he was usually a guy who was really strong until a certain point in the race, until like a certain time. So let's say like 3.5 hours. And today, the race, or like as we were recording Sunday, the race was around 3.5 hours or 3:20 or something. So it wasn't a time frame where I would say that is where he is at the moment. At least what I saw the last years, where he's really, really good and can perform on a high level. I'm really curious in this case to see how he will ride a Tracker 200 if he's doing it. But he made definitely a step over the winter, and it's definitely one name to remember for like the UCI races, which are usually between 3 and 4 hours.
His time.
And then by the way,
sorry, he was 6th today and 5th overall in the GC.
Yeah, but I have to say he crashed today before the finish.
Okay.
And therefore he couldn't sprint. And but I think we will see him more often up there. Then the Namibian champion, do you have his name? If he was 4th in GC today?
Alex Miller?
Alex Miller. And he's a mountain biker and moved over to the SWAT team. And I spoke with him after the finish. He actually wants to move to Girona. He's still living in Namibia. And I think he will be also one of the guys we will see more often in front. But then, in general, as I mentioned before, the SWAT guys, if they figure out how gravel works, then they're definitely a team to
have it on their list, a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, force to be reckoned with, because they will definitely be really, really strong as a unit.
And then, like 9th place, Luis Leon Sanchez. Was it the former World Tour pro Luis Leon Sanchez? Okay.
It's really so funny, because like Greg van Avermaet, Luis Leon Sanchez, and me. I mean, we're all former road pros. I mean, Peter Vakac as well, but he's a bit younger than me, and we are kind of, in the time we raced together, I was never as good as them. Never. It's just, for me, nice to see that I'm now better than them. I'm taking it also a bit more serious than they do. But I spoke with Greg after the race, and I asked him if he's still enjoying it. He says, "Yeah, man, every day I can sit on my bike, I enjoy it." So that was actually, he's right. That's the way you can see it as well.
Where did he finish? I mean, he's like an also ran by now in these races. No, he's not really in the front groups, or is he?
No. He's gonna doing Cape Epic, he said. But I mean, it's nice as these guys come back. And Luis Sanchez, he's always on, I mean, he was really trying. Yeah. He was definitely trying. I saw him. He looks bloody fit, and he was definitely trying.
And when did he retire? Last year or already the year before? I think I saw him last year in some races, or was it 23?
I think 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah, possible.
Yeah, but not so long ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely interesting GC standings. Also, I guess pretty good to collect some early points for the overall of the Gravel Earth Series.
Yeah, that's also that's the reason why I started in the end. If I wouldn't want to go for the GC and Gravel Earth Series, I wouldn't have started the race at all, because I would have been better to stay at home and doing proper training. But yeah, for the GC, it was important to be here.
Yeah, and you put this on the record, I heard before today and now again. So definitely one of your targets this GC, no? This season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's getting more and more important, and I mean, I'm happy I could win Tracker to Hangwit a few years ago, and I don't say I'm gonna go and win the GC, but it's definitely nice to get that, like, maybe on my palmares in my career. And yeah, as the UCI has no GC yet, therefore it's nice to chase this GC over the year.
So it's been a while since we did the last podcast, and what I'd be curious about is how did Gravel Earth Series perception change for you over the last season and now this year? Did it change? You said it's getting more and more important already, because from like my fans' perspective, I definitely feel they are leveling up the game, and to me it's now really a pretty serious competitor with the other two series, so Lifetime and UCI, and maybe Belgian Waffle Ride. But I think they surpassed BWR definitely in terms of standing by now.
I think so, yeah. I mean, you could see at the start list at the UCI race in southern Spain and the start list of the race in Santa Vall. Of course, you have to consider that many people coming here for training camps to Girona, so that plays also a part in it. But yeah, definitely that Gravel Earth Series is more and more important, and I agree. I think it has surpassed, at least in Europe, the BWR standing wise, and I think it's level with Lifetime Grand Prix, because not many people can, they don't know what Lifetime Grand Prix is really. But like Gravel Earth Series, at least in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
But Gravel Earth Series, the people know the races, then they know Tracker, they know Santa Vall now, because Glassmark does a really good job in promoting these races. And I also think that the next one with the hills in Italy, the race of Mattia De Marchi, will also be a success and a big race. And there, everyone is there, at least from Europe. And of course, America is the heartland of gravel. And I don't want to take that away from them. But yeah, the Europeans doing right now a pretty good job in getting level and maybe surpassing them again at one point.
We shall see. I mean, quite feasible. Anything else that you would like to say with respect to Santa Vall?
No, not much. I just think that we had that quite a few times, this topic, that I think that the sport is developing faster than organizers can raise their own levels. And yeah, I don't know how to and no, in the end, I'm happy with these events, and it was well organized. I think in the future we need just maybe more road signs or bigger road signs, where to take a turn, where not to take a turn. I know we have GPS units on our bikes.
Did you take like wrong turns? I heard this from
luckily
a few
not,
people.
but there were a few turns which you almost took wrong, and we went like full gas, and then suddenly we had to take like this turn, and like the group, some taking turns, some not, and that becomes really, those situations become really, really dangerous as the racing gets more and more intense. And I mean, in the front, most of the guys, and I guess also women, they know how to handle their bikes, but I think we need we need better road marking or route marking along the course to really see where we have to go. Of course, there was markings, but not as big as there maybe should be, and not everywhere. So I think that's like the next thing which we need to make these races safer. Because looking down at your head unit in a descent, doing 70 km an hour, jumping over stones and like what else is not the safest way to ride your bike.
Yeah, and I mean, this security topic definitely is increasingly important. I just happened this weekend, I listened to Andrew, who we had on this podcast a few times, on Beyond the Peloton, and they were talking about, I cannot pronounce this French race, but the French race where several teams quit because
Tour de Bizige.
Exactly this one. And my wife is French. Hopefully she doesn't hear that I can't pronounce it. But yeah, this one, obviously many teams stopped because cars were coming on the trail. And what Andrew said is, yeah, welcome to gravel racing, because this happens so regularly in so many gravel races. So I didn't come across any car stories, but yeah, like it's important that organizers care about this and also take measures to prevent it.
Yeah, we definitely had car stories, but we're used to it.
Yeah.
So we're moaning in the moment, as I did to you via voice message, and then we're forgetting about it. I think every organizer does his best, but there's definitely always room to improve, and and
as you say, I mean, it's developing so quickly, and the fields, the groups are more together, everything is faster, and that also changes what happens on these courses, how these things are raced. And then, I mean, we often talk about how several races aren't officially races, and Santa Vall is one of them. It's not officially a race for regulatory whatever reasons, I assume. And but it is effectively a race, and you better treat it like this from a security standpoint. That would be my take on this. And then we mentioned a few times the second race on the weekend from the UCI series, the Castellon Gravel Race in Castellon, Spain. On the women's side, you already mentioned the winner, Carolin Schiff, first place. The second place was Sofia Rodriguez Revert, and
Spanish gravel champion.
Exactly. And then third place of the elite podium is Jade Treffeisen from Germany as well. Interestingly, so I read an article on Cycling News, which I then also posted on Instagram, where two other Spanish racers were mentioned that finished ahead of Jade. And then I made this post about it, and Caro actually told me what happened. These two were age groupers. So they finished before, because I assumed they were disqualified or something must have happened. No, these were not in the elite race, these two ladies, but age groupers. And one of them also former pro. So my theory was they wanted to qualify as age groupers for the World Championship, because they probably want to have a World Championship title to their name. Just a little story.
Yeah. I didn't ask him that, because I was also having a dinner with Jade, like with Caro. Yeah. But no, they didn't told me that. But yeah, in the end, third place is third place.
yeah, definitely. I just found it so interesting that people in the age group category can finish that high in the race. And then on the men's side, Alejandro Valverde won the race ahead of Thiago Ferreira and Matteo Fontana. Do you know anything noteworthy about this race? I don't know the course.
Yeah, it was a really, really hard course, and they said one of the hardest they have ever done.
Okay.
What they both said. And yeah, I know a story about the men's race, but which I can't tell here on record, but I'm going to tell you that off the record.
Lovely.
But we leave that in here so that you are jealous that you guys don't know the story.
I did see a video from Jade's Instagram where she was...
Sascha Weber finished 4th, by the way, the German.
True. I saw this video from Jade going up a climb. It was not off-road, but it was super street, super steep, tiny street that she was going up. So yeah, looked like a hard segment that I saw. But otherwise,
which it definitely was. That's all I heard.
but that gets me to another point. Look how big in gravel social media Santa Vall is, and how small this race is comparatively, which tells me that the UCI needs to level up the media game and the production game of these races. There were so many reels and stories and so on from Santa Vall, and just a few things. And I tried to follow everyone and all the races and so on, but just the production of Gravel Earth series, of this race in particular, because it's probably owned, operated, all that by Glassmark, just 2 different levels.
Yeah, Glassmark does a good job there, and also know that we cyclists like to share things where we can see ourselves in. So, and they're doing that really well, and using us to promote their races. And yeah, the UCI races, or the UCI always relying on the local organizers, and I think most of them, they're not so good in social media, obviously. So therefore, we don't get that many informations there. But what I see is that more and more sites like Cycling News actually showing the results and talking about these races. And I hope that the coverage about gravel racing is increasing, and we can see that on more and more different platforms.
On that note, I have a little theory that I want to run by you, essentially as the first people to test it by. I actually even wrote a little piece, which let's see if and where it's going to be published. But the title of the piece is Gravel the Future of Bike Racing? And I guess you're the perfect person actually to run it by, because as a former World Tour pro, of course, also you talked about bike racing on the air as a color commentator on TV. You are still part of the Besenwagen podcast. So you are super deep into road cycling. You know it inside out. And also you're a OG gravel privateer from Europe. And the question or the thought that I was having is like, okay, people love road racing, and it's of course much bigger than gravel is nowadays. But if you think about the time when road racing became popular, so of course, like the big races like the Tour de France and many others were invented by newspapers back in the days, and more or less these races had a lot of the characteristics in the early days from gravel, these crazy people doing these multi-day adventures, having a beer or multiple bottles of wine on the road after the races. So these were adventure stories. And then they started broadcasting it. I think it was in 1963 when there was the first full, all stages were covered on live television. And at this time, many people didn't travel, or most people didn't travel all the time. People had much less cars. And I think watching bike racing was also daydreaming. It was aspirational. You saw these French chateaus, these vineyards in Italy, and all of this. And road racing was really something that people could dream about. But now, what do you think if you think about the roads? You think about traffic jams. Everybody is always on the road. Traveling is nothing special. I mean, if you don't go on holidays 2-3 times per year, many people think that is weird even. And then everybody goes outdoors. Outdoors is the big trend. You want to be in the mountains. You want to be where it's green in the forest. That is the big trend. And that is what gravel racing brings. And I think brings in a way that people could really buy into, if only it would be presented in an easily accessible way, which, as we talked about many times, is the big challenge that gravel is nowadays having, or the thing that the presenters, promoters of these races, the owners of the series, that they need to solve for, but they are also super aware. And then I think the UCI, ASO, they are very traditional entities. They control road racing. They are not big proponents of change. And in some way, gravel, of course, the UCI plays a role. ASO is nowhere to be seen. But then we have Lifetime. Then we have the Gravel Earth series. And there is much more competition. They innovate. Everybody wants to create like the attractive package. And probably we will see consolidation. But there is stuff going on in terms of how this can get presented. And essentially, if things go well on that end, and if people are lucky, I think the sport of gravel has pretty big potential.
I agree. A year ago or 2 years ago, I would have said gravel is too boring to watch for like 6 hours. But the level I see now, and the level will just get even higher, we see more and more race action throughout the day. And therefore, I think that gravel has the potential to actually excite the viewer. So, yeah, I think if the organizers figure out how to televise it and show it on YouTube, wherever, I think we need like this solid starting point. I think we had the last year's Gravel World Championships be shown on Discovery or Eurosport or wherever. But it looked boring sometimes because like not enough information. Actually the racing wasn't that exciting. But I would say that actually these Gravel Earth Series races, what I've seen here, that were quite exciting to watch because there was so much going on. And I think that the World Championships is maybe not the best example for like how gravel is, and how gravel should be seen. So therefore, yeah, I do think that gravel has a brighter future. I don't think it will surpass road racing because the legacy of road racing is just too big and the money involved, and I don't. Not in the next 10 to 15.
But now people
years.
start having to pay like £30 a month in Britain, in the UK.
Yeah, but that's. Yeah, I think that's another topic that we have to speak in general about, like budgets in the sport, and everyone wants more money, so somewhere the money has to come from, so you can't grow the money. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I think gravel is more exciting than what people can see at the Gravel World Championships, and maybe the organizers like Gravel Earth Series, like Klaasmark, are able to showcase that in the future properly. So like going all in for one season and giving it a try, and not just using one camera, because in the end you have to show different scenarios, you have to show different riders, and you have to build a whole story around it, and it's quite a big task, but I think it could be worth it. Yeah.
I mean, the one pushback you could definitely give to this theory is, why don't people then watch mountain biking like crazy? But I think that is so mountain biking is too.
I think cross country racing isn't small. It's just not
bigger than gravel.
It's just not. Yeah, there's definitely more money than in gravel, television wise, but more people probably gravel now in Europe than they do mountain biking or like traveling around. Let's say, I will argue that more people now traveling around to gravel than traveling around to mountain bike. I'm not talking about people taking their bike on their roof rack and living in Munich and going to the Alps and doing on an e-bike going up and down. Therefore, I think gravel has surpassed mountain bike there. You can see it also in sales. So I think that's no question. But in my eyes, Olympic distance mountain bike racing is really interesting, and I enjoy watching it. But it's also televised really well, And
it's just such a different viewing experience. So I like especially at like the Olympics, I watch it, and sometimes like on GCN Plus back in the days, I tuned into some of these races, and it's fun, but it's a different experience. Road racing, the cool thing is it's this perfect combination of there's racing and then the guys talk, and you can have it on the second screen while you do something else for hours.
I know what you mean. You mean like the whole thing around it, like as you say, talking about not let's say castles, but like having more of an experience than just
this
seeing
you can
the
have
race.
in gravel.
Yeah, okay.
In gravel, you can combine it. You can have like an experience, but it's off road, and then people talk for hours. It's not so technical, and so I think it can be a pretty cool broadcast product, live product, and sport. But we shall see. We shall see. There are of course big obstacles also, starting from how to get the signal out from these races.
Yep. But to end that topic, we don't start with Unbound, please. Let's take a more exciting parcours to showcase that full. So if we take Unbound as the first race in general to showcase non-UCI World Championships in full length, that's maybe the wrong race to excite people.
I wrote as much in this piece, but it's there are different courses, but even like look. The Garmin Gravel Worlds course is visually not that much more exciting, maybe, than Unbound. But if you have the right crew commentating and talking about it, then it can still be interesting. Yeah, not to excite the masses, but also you need good voices.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. Yeah, there's definitely a place for that, and I mean, in the future we will have that. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if I'm still racing then, but I'm pretty sure we will have televised gravel races, more televised gravel races in the future. Yeah.
Maybe you'll be back to commentating then.
Yeah, or doing my third career when gravel is Olympic with 50.
Nice.
Yep.
Cool. Anything that we missed?
No, not really. Let's just have a short talk about Patreon.
Let's go there. If you like what we are doing here, and if you want to support what we are doing here, then we would be super stoked if you would click on the link in the show notes, jump to Patreon, and support us. And you also get some perks as a Patreon supporter. For instance, you can join the outside community. We have a nice little Discord where we talk about all things gravel racing, tech, waxing, and whatever the people want to know. So join us.
We mean chain waxing, not.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we can also talk about leg waxing. I'm actually curious when that topic is coming up. We are not far away from that.
Do you wax or do you shave? We could put this voting up and then see.
Yeah, no, but as Thomas mentioned, if you want to support the Grazing podcast or the Outside podcast, which is in German most of the time, and then also my YouTube stuff, then we will appreciate that too. Yeah, that's it, I think.
Paul, thank you so much for this late night post-race recording session, and talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you too. Bye.